Today on The Bottom Line, I have with me Rachel Sanders, the CEO and co-founder of Rootine. Now, if you're a health nerd like me, you've probably heard of this brand. You've seen them around, the brand Rootine, Rootine, health and wellness brand at revolutionizing the future of supplements. So they use unique health data to create targeted supplements designed to work with your body. So they have a smart multivitamin, drink mixes, etc. I'm really excited to jump in this episode. She breaks down her investment banking background, how that helps her as a founder, how that helped her just operate the business just at large. We jump into her organic social virality. She's really helped the brand by posting content. Her reels are getting 5 million views, 10 million views. And that's contributing massively to their growth and also ad efficiency, which I thought was really, really interesting. And also just, I love the conversation around new product expansion offering, especially when it comes to offering a product at a lower price point to get people bought into the brand. Oh, I love this product. And then that relays them into the product that you ultimately really want them to be on, whether that be subscription, but we talk a lot about offers. And so really jam-packed episode. I think she's a very, very, very smart woman and operating an amazing brand today. And so I'm really excited for you guys to listen in on this one. And let's jump in. Rachel, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
You were doing investment banking. That's my brother-in-law was doing investment banking, and the early days of starting Kinship, I was working 70 hours, and I was like, bro, how did you work 100 hours? Like, I don't even know where those extra 30 hours are you're getting. How is this possible? So props to you just having that background just in general. But how do you feel like that background has helped you in operating Rootine?
Starting as an investment banker when you're 21, 22, it's really like drinking from a fire hose where you're thrown in, you're expected to figure all this stuff out. You're working with people of all ages, but a lot of people that are much, much older than you. And you need to show up every day, figure it out fast, get really curious around what's going on in the numbers and the operations and how do you help move the needle for your clients, which in this case for me was middle market M&A. A lot of times founders, it's maybe their second raise. And so my experience was a little different than the typical bulge brackets of Goldman, where I was actually working and talking with these founders constantly. And I would say that every single piece of that is a part of your startup life too, where you start, you're drinking from a fire hose. There's so many decisions that need to be made. You're working really hard. You're working long hours. And you have to get really curious and learn how to learn. And I think a lot of those foundational principles really helped going into starting Rootine, not to mention the fact that I had this incredible background in finance where I can look at numbers, analyze them really, really fast, which is not something a lot of founders can do. And truthfully, I even to this day, I think about how do people without that background learn it? Because it's really hard to figure out. So I'm grateful that I had that and then layered on the experience from business school to then go into take a lot of that knowledge and use it for Rootine.
It's shockingly high how many founders I get on the phone with that don't know their own numbers, let alone just numbers just in general. That when I ask, what's your blended COGS, they don't have it rolling off the tongue. They don't know their gross margin rolling off the tongue like the back of their hand. So I love that you have that background. It's amazing. What, if you don't mind sharing, what percentage of rev you spend on marketing? And if you gave like a paid versus brand split, if you think about it in that way.
Yeah. With the context that we are currently doing a massive shift in kind of how we're approaching product and really where we're focusing our marketing dollars on. Today, we're at about 20 to 30% of revenue a month on marketing, split between brand and paid. But also at the same time, from a time and resource perspective, we're doing a lot of push and organic, specifically around my own content. So in the last 6 months, I've gone from 0 to 8 to 10 million impressions a month on Instagram, also showing up across LinkedIn, TikTok, and just launched my newsletter. So a lot of that content is driving organic growth, which doesn't cost anything to do it. It's just my time.
Which is a huge cost.
It is a huge cost, but from a what percentage of revenue perspective, it's it's not in there.
On the P&L?
Yeah.
It probably will be eventually on there. Okay, so what product do people buy first, and what did they buy first? It seems like obviously Rootine has evolved over the years, but like what was traditional hero product, or even if that is still the hero product?
Yeah, it's a great question. So our newest product line, our functional drink mixes, just launched a couple of months ago. And so everything has really transformed since we had the new product line. Historically, we were really a single product, our smart multivitamin supported by our at-home lab tests. So that's really what people bought. Today, the majority of people are coming in and buying our functional drink mixes to start with. It's a lower price point and it's a much simpler kind of entry point into the brand. You can also find it in more places. So our multi, that's D2C only. Our drink mixes are, of course, on our website, but they're also just launched on Amazon. So if you're listening to this, go buy us on Amazon, write us a review. That would be hugely appreciated as we're scaling there. But we're also entering into retail and just being able to find us in a lot more places. In terms of which drink mix, sleep and stress are both hero SKUs right now. They kind of compete for the number one spot on a week-to-week basis. And a lot of people are buying them together.
What was the impetus for launching the elixirs? Was it let us in under the hood of that. When you have a hero product that's just a multivitamin and an at-home test, I would imagine it's a long consideration cycle, or longer than obviously buying a functional elixir. So I guess my wheels are turning on how you arrived at that decision, and then I have a follow-up question after that. But
a lot went into that kind of decision, starting with, we have this amazing base of consumers and a cult following with our core product. And what we were seeing both from the lab tests and from what people were telling us and from other surveys is that people were really struggling in these core areas that we were starting with: sleep, stress, and focus. And a lot of it boils down to imbalances in circadian rhythm and imbalances around cortisol, which we had launched our cortisol test about a year prior. And we saw every single person pretty much who took the cortisol test was imbalanced. Let's call it 95%, had some part. It's a 3-point test, and at least one of the points was out of optimal range. And so we came together as a team and we're like, how else can we impact people's health? How can we help them get products they need that actually work when they need them, and layer on to our hero product, which was the multi at the time. And we did a lot of research and understanding. We also pride ourselves on innovation around form factor. So our multi is microbeads, and these new drink mixes are powders. So it's a supplement. It's a powder supplement. It's just drinkable. So instead of taking a pill, which a lot of people have pill fatigue, or taking a gummy, which is hard to get enough active ingredients in to actually feel a difference, we really wanted to create these therapeutic dosages of adaptogens that taste enjoyable in a way that you can actually feel it quickly, which is drinking, because it goes into your bloodstream.
Which obviously, okay, so I'm looking at on your website, Smart Vitamin, $94. But then you have your drink mixes, and I'm assuming you're bundling these three into one. Is that like what's best selling right now, or are people buying individual?
We bundle, the best selling bundle is the sleep and stress bundle right now. And then people will layer on individual, like 10 counts to the multi.
Okay. But even just using stress, $25, it's just so smart, because I think, you have one SKU, it's a pill. There's a variety of different tangential things around that, even just from a creator perspective, a influencer perspective, a consumer perspective of, I don't notice necessarily, like when I take a multivitamin, do I notice any differences besides from a placebo effect, I think it's healthy and I know it's healthy. But so something that you can taste, feel a difference, lower price point, you get people to buy into the product. So I love all of it.
It's a lot more trialable too. So we built it in sachets, so kind of like an element, but actually functional, where you can feel changes so that you can sample it super easily as well. So instead of the multivitamin, which you take tests and it's a very complex, fully personalized N=1 manufacturing process, our stick packs are, you try it once and you fall in love with it.
There's a problem today with too much fake UGC saturation. Consumers are looking for authentic reviews and content, and this is a way that you can stand out in a crowded market with authentic influencer content. So Cody here with an ad read for Get Seryl. So there's an explosion of D2C brands across categories. You got to be able to stick out. We here at Kinship actually use Seryl for influencer discovery, but Seryl is not just a discovery tool, but a way that you can search for brand aligned influencers, but reach out directly. You can manage them all in place. You can track performance all within one platform. So brands like Avi, Legends, Tab Chocolate are using them to get hundreds of creators talking about them on socials, and you can too. And in addition to that, all of our clients here at Kinship that are doing seeding are using that platform as well. So you can start your free 7-day trial with Seryl to get authentic UGC. Go check them out. Yeah, and I guess that's where I was going is a lot of, when we see across our client portfolio is nailing that offer to get people to just buy it, knowing on the assumption that you have a good product, that people want to come back, because that's so much of marketing is just getting your customers to come back and return and buy or get to the thing that you really want them to buy. But the first thing is going to be that hook to get them bought in on the brand. So I'm curious, how has the recent rebrand product expansion changed your forecast for the year? I know you're a couple months in. We're recording this at the end of May. Depending on when this goes live, it's probably going to be even better by the time this goes live. But I'm just curious, early signs, how it's changed your forecast for the year?
Yeah, our products are performing better than what we expected. And the other kind of outside, like not on my bingo card, is my organic social in terms of how much that scaled in the recent months. As I was putting together budgets at the end of the year, my social looked very different than it does today. And it's just continuing to explode. So that having that as a ability to push organic traffic has been incredibly helpful, especially on Amazon. We've seen Amazon just 4x in the last couple of weeks, which has been incredible. And then in terms of what our actual metrics look like, where we were versus now, our CACs are such that we're still first order profitable on Facebook right now, which I never thought we'd be able to say, given what we were from a CAC perspective before.
And you think that's because of this new product?
Yeah. All of our marketing spend right now in Meta is going to the new products. And so we're getting people in profitably on Meta right now, and are going to continue to push that a little bit further and see how far we can go. So those were the two, my organic social and what's happening on Meta, were just not expected when we made the budgets. And
those go hand in hand, everybody. Your organic performance and impressions help your ad efficiency. Take note. One of the things that we were talking about in the pre-recording, you use this phrase, we brought everything in-house for the rebrand to make everyone as close to it as possible. Why was that important to you?
It's a good question. So we've done a lot of different ways, or we've handled brand in a lot of different ways over the years. We've done everything from bringing on a branding agency to doing more stuff in-house. And what I learned as a founder is that if you have people like every day waking up, eating and breathing the challenge, the problem, the goals that we need to have in front of us, you're just going to get a better result than if you're working with somebody who has like 15 different clients, for example. Especially during something that's super complex, which our rebrand was, because we were taking our hero product, our Smart Multivitamin, expanding our offering, updating our messaging, talking to it's not a new customer, but going deeper in a customer that we were already serving, and redoing packaging. And so we had 100 different moving pieces, and we needed people really focused on it. That's not to say we didn't have some external help within that, but the majority of the work and the finalizing was happening in-house. So we had some people helping us think through copy. We had a packaging designer helping us think through packaging. But then we took that packaging and used our in-house designer to apply it to everything else in a way that we absolutely love. And I think it just worked. It worked better. It can be slightly more expensive to do it that way. Or if you're working with a branding agency, it depends. We've also spent a ton of money on a rebrand with a branding agency too. So it could be one and the same.
Looking at your ad library right now, it seems like you're running a good amount of UGC. How did you acquire that content? Any interesting ways you guys are getting creative?
We took a lot of that in-house too. So at least initially. So we've wanted to test messaging and really understand our consumer and what was going to resonate on these new products before we went out and paid or got more UGC folks and content creators involved. We're at the point now where we have a lot of that key messaging down. We know what's going to go viral because of my accounts, and we can now start to put what's going to go viral and have people recreate it in a really interesting way. And so we use LTK, and we've done a few of the smaller like UGC campaigns, but a lot of it has been in-house content creation by myself and others.
A lot of times we don't see a correlation between organic performance and meta performance. So like a viral video doesn't necessarily equate to good ad performance. Sounds like you guys are seeing the opposite, or am I wrong on that?
We are seeing the opposite, but it's a very key way that it's different, is because all of the content that we're testing on organic is focused around ROI and problem evangelism in such a way that it could actually work in an ad. So if you look at organic social content, typically something can go viral, which would definitely not convert. Like you see tons of viral videos and none of that is going to convert. All of our viral videos have the ability and are actively converting in organic. And so then we can apply it to ads because it's a similar messaging. It hasn't worked every time.
Give an example.
There's one video. So our most efficient ad right now is a video of like my hands stirring a drink. And I put it on my social, and it's something like the healthy cortisol cocktail that I use for like XYZ. It went organic on I just tested it. It went organic on my account. And then once it hit, I think we're at like 5.4 million views on it right now. And I was like, all right, we're going to test this on ads. I copied it in a similar fashion. It's not exactly the same. It's now our most efficient ad on Meta, just in the last week.
Yeah. So like I said, we usually don't see that correlation just because of probably what you're highlighting with that it's not thought of as an ad and I will say that you guys are in a space where there is a functional difference and element to your brand that leads to, and a consumable that's like, this is what I'm doing, this is how I feel, this is how it tastes, that leads to a specific product, which is really, really, really nice. So I'm curious on the early stages of data, of a bit of a spontaneous question here, is people that are buying certain elixirs, since that's what's converting best on Facebook, what are you seeing on the LTV side of things? As far as, are people coming back and now buying the multivitamin? And is that what you want them to do? Is that what you're driving them to do on like when you're retargeting or hitting people up on email campaigns once they're on your email list, et cetera?
We're seeing some good repeat purchases, but honestly, it's too early to tell right now because a lot of our volume has been in the last 30 days. And so if you look at like past 30-day repeat purchases, it's not going to tell you a lot. But we are seeing some success, and we're getting some great reviews, which is really initially what we wanted to see. So we wanted people to come in, buy the products, and love it with the first initial batch. And we're seeing people coming back and saying, hey, my HRV, I took the sleep once. My HRV is the best it's ever been. I'm taking sleep or stress as my alternative. Sleep is a better sleepy girl mocktail. Like focus is nature's Adderall. Like just getting those initial reactions was kind of the first 6 weeks of plan. And then now it's more a life cycle.
Nature's Adderall. I love that.
It really is. I every time I take it, I'm like, something's going on in my brain. And I was like, oh, right, I took it.
What is your North Star metric? Like, what are you going in as the founder looking at every day?
If I have to pick one, it's contribution margin right now. But I would say the three are revenue.
I said talking our language. I love it.
It's revenue, contribution margin, and then cash flow. So managing the business from a cash perspective versus managing to the P&L is kind of how we're thinking about it, which is why contribution margin really matters. And a lot of our product, as we think about product mix, we have some very expensive products that are not great with margin. And then we have less expensive products that will give us more margin. And so really making sure that like revenue to COGS is matching in the direction that we want it to go. Because if we push higher contribution margin products, we need less revenue to get to cash flow break even.
I'm curious how often, so contribution margin's funny because it's a bit of a I feel like it's a hot term for, even though it's been a financial metric for forever. It's like no one invented it. Well, I guess someone did eventually, or beforehand. How often was that a major focus when you were tying it back to the beginning of this episode, when you were in M&A, looking at all these middle market businesses, founders?
The main difference during IB investment banking experience to now is most of the companies are like cash flow positive. So they had net income, and we were looking at EBITDA. And as you think about valuation, EBITDA multiples were core there. So if you push it up to contribution margin, obviously the higher gross margin you had, the EBITDA was going to be better. And then from a private equity perspective, businesses with higher contribution margins are more attractive and typically valued higher than the businesses with the lower contribution margins, even if they are EBITDA positive.
Early stage founders, someone in your similar category, not that you would give them advice because you want to crush your competition. Heck yeah. What would you say as kind of one takeaway, one call to action that you would give other operators out there listening to this?
The number one piece of advice that I would say, and I still tell myself this today, is that you really need to get the advice from the experts that have done it before and then filter that through your own head and make a choice. Because you are obviously doing something that has never been done before, which is why you're working at a startup. So no one actually knows the answer. They all have advice from the context in the worlds that they've lived in, but it's very possible that their advice is wrong. And as an early founder, especially first-time founders, it's so easy to get bought into what somebody else says, even if you're not feeling right about it. And now, if I'm working with an expert or I'm getting advice from someone, I just constantly am filtering it. And if I, after a couple of calls, or if I'm working with an advisor and I'm like, you know what, this doesn't feel right now for where we are in the business, I'll just stop working with them because it doesn't feel right in my head. And now I know that also means it's probably not right for the business.
I love that. Use your own discernment. The buck stops with you. So no one's going to be blaming that advisor if you take their advice. They're going to be blaming you. So yeah, just even having personal accountability, which I love, which is so much of that in that answer. Where do people find you if they want to connect with you? It sounds like you're popping off on IG, but in terms of if they want to shoot you a DM, take this conversation a further, heard you on the podcast, wanted to follow up question.
Yeah, you can find me a lot of different places. My main content is all around work. So how do you improve and elevate your career? And how do you elevate your wellness? The elevate your wellness side is a lot on Instagram. So that's at Rachel SOP Sanders. And then you can find me on LinkedIn. That's more of my work and career content. I also have a newsletter, Glow and Elevate, which you can get a link to from my Instagram and my LinkedIn. And you can find out more about Rootine at rootine.co. And we're routine_co on all social.
And that's ROOTINE. All right, Rachel, thank you so much for the time. It was really awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.